Looking back on the first half of this decade, I truly believe we're in the golden era of TV. There have been so many shows that I think will go down as absolute classics. There is, however, one show that has completely drawn me in. FX's The Bear is mostly known for its high-energy, anxiety-inducing depiction of life inside a kitchen. As stressful as it can be, I weirdly consider it to be my comfort show. I find solace in the idea that these characters can make something beautiful from all the chaos in their lives. I love the visuals, I love the music, the jokes, the outfits, the characters, and of course, the food. The show also paints a vivid portrait of a city called Chicago, a city that also just so happens to host the largest LEGO convention in the world. Here's the plan. Before June 2026, when Brickworld Chicago occurs, I want to build the bear out of LEGO. The restaurant will primarily take place during the finale of Season 2, during the Friends and Family Night, but I will also incorporate scenes and Easter eggs from other episodes when I want to. For example, I want to have the beef window open with people mingling at the seating area outside, which doesn't happen until Season 3. But I'd rather have it be packed with details than have perfect accuracy. It'll be comparable to how the LEGO Death Star sets include scenes from multiple movies. This build will be made out of 99.9% real LEGO with one exception, which I will get to. I plan on having enclosed walls on all sides with an open roof to view all the different rooms. I might make a temporary roof and interior lights later, but that's further down the line. I'm sure that my ideas for this build will constantly evolve. I'll make mistakes along the way, but hopefully I can learn from them and improve. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so the very first thing I did was create these 32 by 16 bases, a couple of these with some plates, bricks and Technic bricks. The idea is that I'll be able to put in some Technic pins and then connect them all together easily. Just random colors since they're going to be covered up, obviously. And I don't know if this is the best way to do this for a large sprawling mock like this. I might look into some other similar mocks to see what other people have done, but it feels pretty strong and we'll see how it comes together. So I think I made a decent start here with mapping everything out on these bases that I made. But before I dive into this, I'm going to show you really quickly how I kind of figured out how to do all the proportions and everything right. So I have this PDF viewer that I use for school, use for work now. And what I can do is I can open an image and I can take a measurement and say, okay, this is going to be 1 foot. And in my mind, I'm thinking 1 foot is 1 stud wide. So if I wanted this column to be 2 studs wide, and then I can use that, I can calibrate that and then measure everything else. So now I know that this distance is going to be roughly 30 studs wide, for example. So that was pretty useful in just kind of making sure that the proportions were somewhat accurate. But what I did first was map out this table, the seating area right here, because I wanted to make sure there was enough room for that minifigures to gather around and mingle here. And I started on this blue wall here. These white panels are going to represent the windows. And it's looking a lot bigger than I thought it was going to. It looks like I need a bigger desk, but you know, that's future me's problem. And yeah, I mean, I was looking at the Lego office set, for example, and it looks like that's kind of on a similar scale. So I don't think it's going to be too big, you know. That was one thing I was worrying about. If it seems like there's so much space in there that the entire room feels too large for the minifigures that are going to be in it. But I don't think that's going to be a problem yet. Another thing I did was I found this cool technique to build this siding here that's going to be on the side of the restaurant with the beef window. I think it looks really good. It's a pretty simple build using these plates stacked like this, just at an angle here. And I think if I can get that working well, it's going to come together nicely. So this looks like it's going to be a pretty big mock. As I said, I'm going to have to figure out somewhere else to move this, but we'll check in and see how I sort that issue out. One more thing to mention in regards to how much space I'm going to have in the interior is the entire build is going to be, the walls are going to be 2 studs thick which is going to allow me to have a different color or material on the outside than on the inside. So while I'm mapping everything out, that's something I have to think about. It's going to be a little bit smaller than I might be anticipating. All right, so as you can see, I've expanded the restaurant quite a bit. I've got the entranceway going, which I think is coming together pretty nicely with that white masonry brick. I've also been trying to capture these architectural details that are seen all over the entry. I wasn't quite sure what color to go with. I was between tan, light gray, and this dark tan color. And I think I'm more leaning towards the dark tan. I think the gray is going to clash with the sidewalk, and the tan is just kind of bright. I don't know, it looks off to me, so I might switch that up. And I toyed around with the idea of using this printed Minecraft tile as like this one diamond detail on top of the lintel there. I wasn't sure if that looks super good. I mean, it's not really accurate, as you can see, but I don't know. I just like using random printed pieces in different ways, and I thought that would be fun, but I might change that. We'll see. Right here, I was also kind of looking and thinking maybe this is a little too long, but then when I went back and looked at the picture here, there's two tables right there, this portion of the window, and I'm thinking that the tables are going to need to be at least 4 studs wide. So I mean, just putting these two plates right here, you can see that I'm going to need that much space. So I think I am good. So I'll probably start on maybe the sidewalk, some more of the walls, and we'll see where I get from there. All right, so I actually took a break from the main building to work on some of the interior details because I was working on a Bricklink order, and I figured that I should figure these out so that I can buy the parts in bulk ahead of time. So the first thing I designed was the chair that I'm going to be using throughout the entire restaurant. It's a pretty simple design. It uses these 2 bracket pieces as the legs, and then bracket piece on the back for the back of the chair. Very simple. It works well because it sits low and it allows minifigures to easily fit under the table design, which I'll get to. I toyed around with some different ideas, like using this piece as the back, doesn't exist in tan, or using this piece as the back, which also doesn't exist in tan. So I think this works for now. I also had the idea of using these as the legs instead, but for the structure to stay together, I would have to place them this way. And I kind of like having the legs visible as this at the side. I think it looks a little better. So that's the chair, very simple, but I think it'll work well. For the table, also very simple. It's just some plates, these round studs with the hole in the middle to hold these legs, which are just 3 long bars. And I could have just used a normal tile for the table, but having this tiled off area of the corners just makes it look a little bit less cluttered. So it's just made using these 2x2 half tile, half plate pieces to get that look, and I think it looks pretty nice. I'll probably build a couple of these at varying lengths for the tables that are wider and have to fit 2 chairs on each side. So I need to get all these parts in tan to fill out the interior of the restaurant. All right, latest update, we have a working door. So I was able to get the window on that to line up with the window on the rest of the building, which is nice. And then on the inside, I've been working on a design for the flowers, and I also was messing around with what the 3 booths along this wall are gonna look like. I didn't really have all the pieces for it, so I whipped this up in studio using a lot of ingot pieces and that newer curved plate. So I'm gonna have 3 of these lining that wall once I get that order in. At this point, I finally got some large orders from Lego and Bricklink, and so I figured I'd sit down and do a time-lapse build with all the pieces from that. All right, I think I've reached a good stopping point for this first episode here with almost the entire front facade done. For this entryway here, I'm actually pretty happy with how it came together. For the top, you probably saw in the time lapse me messing around with this part a lot, but I bought these slopes here way before I started building, knowing that it would be perfect, I think, for this point at the entryway here. And I didn't know that they would be so flush with these plates right here, and it honestly came together pretty great, I think. I'm also warming up to this Minecraft tile here. I think that looks pretty good, but you guys can let me know what you think. The only issue I'm really running into with the front is the door here, because in order to have this plate and tile right here connected at 2 points at the door, I have to have this snot brick here, which leaves this top not smooth because of this one stud. So I have a bracket there on the other side. You can kind of see blocking that space there. But if we're being honest, I should probably just remove this top piece and then just not have it connected at 2 points. It's pretty flimsy, but I mean, this is a mock, you know, it doesn't really matter. No one's gonna be messing around with the door that hard, so I'll probably just end up doing that. But yeah, overall, I'm thinking that it looks pretty good. I've also got the seating area in place here. I'm really hoping, I have my fingers crossed, that I won't have to go back and pry all those pieces back up to move them if I worked out the spacing wrong, but that's how they look for now. Interior is kind of a mess, but you can kind of see how the booths are coming together here. I forgot to order one of these brown ingot pieces. Just one short, which was annoying. But you can kind of see how it's all coming together. I've got this table. I bought a couple of these ramen pieces because I'm gonna need some food that fits within a 1x1 space. Maybe I'll brick build some stuff, but you know, I figured this ramen could just pass off as just a pasta or something. But yeah, that's about it. The only thing left, I think, is to take a look at some minifigures. So let's do that right now. All right, so I've actually already created most of the minifigures of the main cast of characters for this mock, but I'm not gonna show them all in this first part. You know, you get a big Lego set with a ton of minifigures. They don't give you all the minifigures in the first bag, so I gotta keep the viewer enticed. So for this episode, I'm just gonna do the main 3 characters of the show. So first up, we have Carmy, of course. Now, looking at this minifigure, there might be a part on him that you don't recognize, which would be the apron. These are actually custom pieces. I hinted earlier that there was one exception to the 100% Lego rule that I had, and that's just because there's just not really any torsos or pieces out there that look good as an apron. I mean, like, the closest thing is this Lego City overall piece, which, I mean, come on, that doesn't work. So yeah, these custom aprons I think are really good, and they still feel pretty Lego-like. I'm actually pretty impressed with them. They look really good. A little hard to put on, but they look pretty Lego-like. So for Carmy, he has that Han Solo hairpiece, young Han Solo's head, which head is something I'm kind of still working on, trying to figure out what is best for him. But he's got this torso from one of the Speed Champion sets, and I have him just holding the envelope that he finds in season 1 in the bathroom. I was thinking of hiding that as an Easter egg. But let me show you his other face. He has an angry face, of course. That's a trend you'll see with a lot of these minifigures. They have to have an angry face, obviously. And here's another face I was considering for Carmy. This is actually young Draco Malfoy, which makes him kind of look like a kid, but I think the expressions are kind of accurate to how he looks in the show. I'm not sure. You'll have to let me know what you guys think about that. All right, next up we have Carmy's sous chef turned partner, Sydney. And for her, it was one of the more difficult figures to make. I mean, there's not really a hair / headpiece that works for the bandana look that she has throughout most of the show. But I eventually settled on this Star Wars headpiece that works pretty well with that orangish headband there. That's the closest thing I can really get. The hairpiece is something I've been going back and forth on. I initially was planning on using this piece, but then last minute on the Bricks and Pieces Lego website, I noticed this piece from Wicked that looks a little better lengthwise, but I'm still not totally sure about that, so you'll have to let me know what you think about that. But and then once again, of course, gotta have an angry face. All right, so for the final figure, we have actually the very first thing I built for this mock ever, which is Richie. I'll throw up a picture that I took of him put together all the way back in October, so I guess you could say that's when I officially started this mock. But for Richie, he's actually Sirius Black's face, which looks a little bit old, but was the best fit, and I think it looks decent overall. And then he has, of course, his black suit.
Well, I wear suits now.
It's so sick.
Which is from the old Lego Indiana Jones sets. And you can see he's here polishing his forks, referencing probably the best episode of a show ever, possibly. At least it's up there, top 10. And of course, he has a very angry face to boot as well. All right, so just for a final overview of everything we've accomplished in this first episode, we've got pretty much the entire front finished, a little bit of the outside, and a tiny bit of the inside. So I think next time we're going to be mostly focusing on the interior dining room to make sure that we have everything in place, because we need to know that we have enough space by putting down the interior stuff before we can continue with the rest of the outside. So I'm really happy with what I've accomplished so far, and yeah, stay tuned for what's next. Thank you for watching.